All right. Are we ready to go? Excellent, excellent. Look at all of you. This is fantastic. The room is full, and this is what we love to see on Red Hat Agile Day. Those of you who have been here in the past, you know that I tend to speak extemporaneously and wander all over the room. This year I'm going to actually back away from that a little bit and add a little more gravity to it, because I actually wrote out everything I want to say, because I always miss something. So here we go. Actually, before we get started, we'd like to note that the World Health Organization and Red Hat recognize today as World Mental Health Day. Mental health needs affect everyone, and we at Red Hat Agile Day can apply communication and collaboration to support those around us. We're all in this together, all right? So, everyone, welcome to the 6th Annual Red Hat Agile Day. At Red Hat, we lead with our open organization values: transparency, adaptability, inclusivity, collaboration, and community. Our annual Agile Day event is a great example of that mindset, open and free to all of you. The intellectually curious, the collaborators of our community, the explorers, the discoverers. This brings to mind a beautiful thought. What people think of as the moment of discovery is really the discovery of the question. Jonas Salk. That's a man who embodied the open source mindset, if there ever was one. Red Hat Agile Day draws dynamic and intellectually curious, that's you, from all over the region to share ideas, connect the Agile community, and inspire collaborators. All of you here today embody the pursuit of the next question. Please give yourselves a hand for embodying the spirit of Agile. So how many are here for the first time? Raise your hand. Wow, that's fantastic. How about a big round of applause for that, too? That's wonderful. So a quick note on this year's sessions and themes. This year's sessions were selected from an anonymous pool based solely on their content and how they fit with our theme, Practically Agile. We strongly encourage anyone who wants to present a talk or a workshop to submit a paper next year. Now, we're also looking for better ways to get the call for papers out to the broader community. Those of you who know may have received the notice a little bit late, so we're trying to do better. There will be a call for papers suggestion box actually in the front lobby right now. It's a suggestion box for how to announce it better. Just jot down your idea, throw it in there. We'll take them. We need to process it. We need to come up with some better ways. Speaking of better ways to announce, so the folks from Agile approach me and they say, hey, can you say something? So Agile's call for papers will be going out this weekend. Red Hat Agile Day is a free of charge and truly grassroots event. All of our staff and volunteers donate their time and materials preparing for the event. We don't receive corporate funding, so everything comes out of our own pockets. We like to think of it as a community-delivered event. It's truly practical event, if there ever was one. Can we please have a big round of applause for all the volunteers and staff? You guys are awesome, by the way. Thank you so much for all the hard work you do. You would not believe the buzz of activity that went on around this place this morning to get it going. So, before I tell you anything about our keynote speaker, I do have a few housekeeping rules. Or actually, they're not rules. These are just things you need to know. Before I introduce our keynote speaker, let's go. If you feel like getting on social media anytime today, use hashtag Red Hat Agile Day or hashtag Life at Red Hat, all spelled out. In response to feedback from previous years, this year we've included a number of workshops, a large number of workshops. Sessions and some workshops will be conducted in 3 rooms. Dodgeball, that's this room. No, we're not actually going to throw dodgeballs. That's the name of the room. And then in kickball, which is the room at the far end of the hall. And then there's a room in between, and that one's called Red Rover. That will be specifically devoted to workshops. That room only holds 27 people, so if you want to go to a workshop in Red Rover, make sure you get there early. As you leave each session, be sure and grab one of the survey slips. That's one of these. We keep the survey extra simple. And there's a box in each corner of the room or at each door, so make sure you just fill out the slip. It's made a matter of making a circle and dropping it in the box. We're very lo-fi. We're keeping it that way. Only the sessions and workshops in this room in Dodgeball will be recorded. We make the slide decks and from all the presenters available on our website. and as soon as we have them all, and then along with the recordings from Dodgeball. All of those things will be made available on the site. We allow 20 to 30 minutes between sessions to give you all time to talk about what you just learned, to digest it, and to share it with one another. If we run out of coffee, or if you just feel like getting out and stretching your legs and just need some space, there's lots of places. You have lots of options. Right across the street is Sir Walter. Sosta is just up the block. Up around the block is 42 in Lawrence, and about 2.5 blocks away is my favorite, Bittersweet. Bathrooms are out and down the hall on the left-hand side out in front of Kickball. Lunch will be available at 12 o'clock. If you're not a vegetarian, we ask that you don't take the vegetarian kebabs. Thank you. We've had problems with that. Finally, when the day is over, at 3:30, we'll be heading over to Raleigh Riddler, which is just a half a block up north on Blunt Street, just right up that way. Well, it's a beer place and a game place. We're going to be doing our retrospective there, and if you just go to the back of the room, up the stairs, you'll get a ticket for a free beer, courtesy of Raleigh Riddler. So, that is the housekeeping. Now we can get to introducing our keynote speaker. Dr. Doug Kaufman once warned an audience of Agilists, and I was sitting there when it happened. When working with executives on an Agile transformation, he said, don't push Agile on them. First, ask them what problems they're trying to solve, and then show them how Agile can do that. With a truth bomb like that, plus his incredible background, I decided right then and there we needed to have Doug be our keynote speaker for this year. The definition of practical, indeed, of or concerned with the actual doing or use of something rather than theories and ideas. Man of action. Doug Kaufman is an experienced leader and entrepreneur. Under Doug's leadership as CEO of Transloc, the company established itself as a market leader for on-demand microtransit solutions. Prior to joining Transloc, Doug founded several companies, including ClearText, which provided mobile communications for colleges and universities, and Spring Engage, formerly Spring Metrics, a behavior analytics company. And while working on his PhD in social psychology, Doug created allydog.com, an educational resource that is currently being used by millions of students as an essential e-learning resource. So let me put a finer point on all of that. Doug has been instrumental in improving the efficiency of public transportation, helping students and universities communicate better, helping companies understand human behavior better, and ultimately improving e-learning possibilities around the world. Doug is an explorer who's trying to make the world a more connected and better place. I challenge you all to be more like Doug. Come on up, Doug.
I'm good. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you. It's very nice to be here. I'm not sure I'm going to live up to that introduction. My wife is in the audience. She's probably laughing at all of that at the moment, but I'll do my best. So that's my daughter. Her name is Sydney. She's almost 15 now. That was taken a few years ago. Maybe she was 10 or 11 at the time. And like many parents, I would help my daughter upon request with her homework. Even math, which anybody who's a parent now has experienced the school telling you, do not help your student with math. It's taught differently. You won't understand it. You're going to screw them up. So don't do it. So I took that to heart, and I happily helped her with her math homework. And the problem was, of course, it really is taught differently now. I don't know how to do any of the math. So typically, I would have to reverse engineer whatever her math problem was, and then I would say, okay, I get it. I don't know how to do it, but let's try and help you anyway. Okay, so one night she asked me for help with her homework. We go into the kitchen, we sit down at the island, and she's got her papers, including her giant 3-ring binder, which is larger than any binder I've ever seen in my life, and filled with things, and we sit down and we start looking at the math problem, and of course I have absolutely no idea what to do with this thing. There are lines and squares and dots and no numbers, okay? So I asked, hey, did your teacher give you one of those sheets that walks you through how to do one of these problems? And she said, yes. I said, okay, why don't you go get that? Because then I'll have some idea of what we're doing. In response to that, she stands up, she takes that giant 3-ring binder, which is about half of her size, and hurls it across the room, throwing it directly into a glass door that goes to the outside. Papers go flying. She then starts screaming at me. You don't care about me. You don't want me to succeed. You want me to fail. And off she went. What in the hell was that all about? Well, many years later, I think I understand what was going on. See, that's also Sydney. So Sydney has many layers to her. She also has many things going on in her life. Even as a 10 or 11-year-old, there's a lot of pressures at school. There's social interaction she's trying to learn. All these things going on. And I didn't really think about any of that. I didn't show any empathy at all. I didn't ask her really any questions about what she actually wanted. I just came in with my own perspective. I know how to do this. I'm going to tell you how to do it. In fact, she might have even felt like I was micromanaging her. Sit down here, go get this, bring it back, I'll look at it, we'll do this, this is how it's going to work. So was her response proportional to what was happening? Probably not. But it really demonstrated that I had no empathy at the moment, that we were communicating very differently. We were on opposite sides of the world, right? There was like this huge gulf between us, this communication gap between us. And I bring that up today because my experience with people like you who are doing yeoman's work to try and bring Agile to organizations and spread Agile and do good things often communicate one way about Agile, and executives and CEOs often communicate very differently about Agile and come at it from a different perspective. So I think there's this huge divide between you all, and I'd like to try and help bridge that at least a little bit today. So I have some of my own housekeeping before we get started. So first, I'm going to talk in very broad strokes today, okay? So if I say something that doesn't really match what goes on in your organization, that's okay. Broad brush. And I'm probably going to say a lot of things that don't make CEOs and executives look very good. That's not my intent. There's lots of good things about them, but I want to illustrate some points which I think will help you. So keep that in mind. I may say CEO a lot, but that's just a proxy for all executives, right? And executives could be directors, VPs, whatever. If they're leading people, let's just call them executives or CEOs for today. And some of you may be wondering, typically at this event we have people like Stephen Denning speak to us on Agile. So who are you, and why in the world are you our keynote speaker today? So if you've gone to my LinkedIn profile, which I know many of you have because I've seen you, that's what you're going to see. You'll see some specifics about me. You already heard I went to school, graduate school for psychology. I started a bunch of companies. I've been a CEO several times. Most recently, I was the CEO of Transloc. I left there in August, so now I'm just an unemployed guy, just hanging out doing speeches. So that's a little bit about me. But I think what's most important to remember here is that I can bring a CEO perspective to you to help you bridge that gap, give you some things from the other side that you may not realize about executives, which are going to help you in your work. At least that's my hope today. And of course, when I thought about why in the world was I asked to speak here, the title resonated with me, Practically Agile. And what I got from that was, well, I'm practically Agile. I kind of do Agile-like things even before I had any idea what Agile was. So I'm sort of Agile-ish, which those of you who know Eric Hannon, who's sitting in the front row, who leads Agile services at Transloc, he's the one that told me, you've been doing Agile stuff for many, many years. I didn't even know how to spell Agile at the time, but it turns out I was. Here's one example. When I became CEO of Transloc, we said, how are we going to build this company? And we came up with the 4 Ps. And we said, we're going to build this company on purpose, people, product, profit. They're all equally important, but that order is critical, right? You have to start with a great purpose or a great mission. If you do that, you can attract and hire the best people. And if you act like a gardener, right, you nurture them, you raise them, you put them in positions to be successful, you empower them, you give them authority, they're going to learn the market, the customer, the pains better than anybody else. They're going to build great products. If you have great people and great products, you can sell the heck out of them, and you can make a profit. Not because you care about the bottom line, but because you want to be able to bring that back. Oh, there's some sort of emergency. An Amber Alert. Should we take a moment to look at the Amber Alert? Okay. So you want to feed money back into the company so that you can continue striving for success of your mission, right? Purpose, people, product, profit. I just thought that was good business. Eric told me that connects nicely with Agile. So there you go. So you all know Agile way better than I do. I'm not even going to pretend to talk to you about what Agile is and the ins and outs. No. What I will talk about is, what do I think about when I think about Agile? Because I'm giving you the CEO perspective that you can bring back to your work. So to me, when I think about Agile, I think about a mindset, right? A mindset. And there are some very tangible aspects inside of that help build the mindset. But before I get into that, I'm curious, those of you here, if you had the joy of being stuck in the elevator with the CEO for 30 seconds, and you had the opportunity to explain Agile to them with the purpose of getting them excited about Agile, so they say, you know what? I want to know more about that. Maybe that's something we should be doing more of here. What kinds of things would you say? How would you describe it? Just call it out. What's Agile? Delight the customer. Okay. What else? Predictability. Get stuff done. Would you say? Culture. Okay. Okay. Prototyping to get feedback. Good. I should have said no Transload people can answer these things. So I'll say it now. Transload people are forbidden from answering anything going forward. Okay, those are good. So we're going to come back to how I would describe it in a minute. So here are the practical aspects I think about that create the Agile mindset. So first of all, you have a learning environment, right? You have to have an environment where you're making mistakes, you're learning from those mistakes, you're building upon them, and you're getting better all the time. Second, to Liza's excellent point that she just made, you have small teams that are empowered. They have authority. They work at a high rate of speed on the really important things, the things that deliver the most value, but they're broken down into small tasks. Everything is time-boxed. Time-boxed. That's critical to the mindset. Cleaning up along the way. I have to tell you, I suck at this. I have never led a company that excels in this. So let's give a quick example, make sure we're all on the same page. If you run an engineering team, you may write some code during 1 or 2 sprints. That's not production-ready code, but you're going to put it out there, get some feedback, and then you're going to iterate on it. And you know you're going to either throw that code away or you're just going to make it better. Well, you have to go back and actually do that. And many of the companies I've led, oh yeah, we're going to go back and do that. And 2 years later, I'm like, did we ever go back and do that? And they said, no, that's still out there in the wild. Not good. So I think at this, but if you want to have a really good Agile mindset, that's an important one. And of course, dedicated to adding customer value. If we were going to rank order them, maybe that's number 1. And third, highly communicative within and across teams. If your mindset is you focus on a particular team and the communication in that team is awesome, but you don't spend any time thinking about, is this getting out to the rest of the company? Are we all on the same page about this? You really have not achieved the right Agile mindset. So to me, those are the practical aspects of having the right Agile mindset. So what things didn't I include? Well, I didn't talk about ceremonies or Scrum or tools or pair programming or iteration or any of that stuff. None of it would be in my Agile mindset or probably is in any of the mindsets of the CEOs. Why? Because they actually don't give a shit about it. They don't. Certainly not the way you do, right? You know those things are important. The tools are important. The ceremonies are important. The how you do it is really important. But your CEO doesn't care about that. Not the same way you do. And if you get nothing else from this presentation, stop talking to your executives about those things. If you want to have them on board so that you can do big things with Agile in your organization, spread it, do more with it, have big success with it, you want them on board. You talk to them about those things like ceremonies, they glaze over. Get them on board with different language, and we'll talk about that. So if I was stuck in the elevator with a colleague, here's what I would say. I would say, if you view your company as a learning and improving organization where you've got these small teams that are empowered and they have authority to work on the highest priority things that deliver the most value to the customers and gives your company the very best chance to succeed, is that a mindset you think you should have and spread across the company? Most executives are going to say, that sounds pretty good. Maybe not the authority to those people that out there that really don't know what they're doing, but everything else is great. And we're going to get to that authority part. But that's how I would describe it. So you're probably going, yeah, duh, we get this. We're Agile pros. This makes so much sense. This is really a CEO problem. So what's wrong with all these CEOs? Okay? There's a lot, but I'm going to focus on 3 things that I hope will help you understand them today. First, business is stuck in a time warp. Okay? It really is. Second, the entire system is rigged to make executives do the exact things the people in this room do not want them to do, and to think in ways you don't want them to think. And third, we're going to talk about what's like the anatomy of a CEO, and how do we communicate more effectively with them to get them on board with what we want to do with Agile. All right, so I'm going to tell you straight up, I believe in honesty and transparency. This section on business stuck in a time warp, I completely ripped off from Aaron, who wrote this book, Brave New Work. If you haven't read this book, I encourage you to buy it, get it from the library, buy 50 copies of it and spread it around. It's excellent. And Aaron is one of the best org designers in the country, and I think you will love this book. So, my complete rip-off of him. All right, very quickly. We know this is an org chart. What year is this from? 1985. Yesterday, 2019. Not when did I create it, when was it created? Anyone else? Any other guess? So we've got 85, 2019, 1959. Okay. This is from 1910. This is the Northern Pacific Railway. So why do I tell you this? Because that org chart, the way companies are organized, is the exact same today as it was 150 years ago when they started making org charts, right? And it's set up with the CEO at the top and the individual contributors down at the bottom, and it makes you want to climb that ladder, right? Well, I got to get up higher and higher, and this is the way it's organized. Stuck in a time warp. Okay? I'm going to have to read here. I've gotten so old, I actually can't read in the back here. So tell me if this sounds anything like the organization you work at now or any organization you're familiar with. Suggestions like, insist on doing everything through channels. Never permit shortcuts. When possible, refer all matters to committees for further study and consideration. Attempt to make the committee as large as possible, never less than 5 people. Can't have a committee of less than 5 people. Refer back to matters decided upon at the last meeting and attempt to reopen the question of advisability of that decision. I know we made a decision last time. Robert, there you go. This is great. So have you experienced any of this stuff? Yeah? Yeah, a lot of heads. Do you know where this is from? I didn't write any of this. This is taken verbatim. The CIA created a field manual in 1940s to sabotage organizations in enemy states. And they would hand it out to civilians that were sensitive to the American perspective and wanted to help America. And they would give them this field manual, and they'd say, businesses, do this stuff. Keep reopening things, have committees, don't release products until they're perfect. I mean, keep working on them over and over again. They got to be perfect. If you do that, you will destroy productivity and will bring your companies down. Your economy will suffer. This is how you do it. We're all still doing the same shit today. We have not learned. The CIA knows us really well. All right, so the system is set up to reward the wrong things for CEOs. Right? So first, shareholder value. I actually list this as the shareholder value problem. Right? So Milton Friedman, I think he won a Nobel Award, right, for basically saying the only reason companies exist, the only thing they should focus on, there's only one thing: profit. That's it. See, that's their social imperative, is to make money and return it back to the shareholders. Okay? So executives, even if you're the CEO and there's nowhere, you can't go up anymore, what happens if they deliver shareholder value? They get bonuses. They get more money. Increase shareholder. What if the way I'm increasing shareholder value today is by putting us in a death spiral for next year? Doesn't matter. Increase shareholder value today. We'll fix the other stuff later. That's a lot of pressure on an executive, and it creates short-term thinking, as does rewarding executives for extracting value as opposed to creating value. Creating value is hard. Extracting value, like scaring your employees to work harder or you're going to fire them, that's easy. I know how to do that. You can do that. Any of us can do that. That's easy. Short-term thinking is the result of that. And of course, someone mentioned culture before. That creates a pretty shitty culture. Tenure-based promotion. Don't take any risk. Don't be bold. Don't do anything that might fail, and you too will become an executive. One of my favorites, give away authority. This is a real paradigm shift. That's right, I said paradigm shift. It's now recorded, and I'm using cliches like that. Soon I'll bring synergy into this. Giving away authority is really challenging for executives, right? Because that's my job. I make the decisions. And every time I've climbed that horrible org chart and gotten higher up in there, I make more of the decisions because I'm in charge, right? So I can't tell you how many times I have personally been told by board members, people I report to, people I work with, people that work for me, with me, Doug, the fact that you have all these other people making decisions, like you let support people make decisions, this just shows you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to make a decision. You don't want to make a decision. You're not an effective CEO. I've heard all of this stuff to my face from every level because I want the people that have the most information, that are at the edges, that do the work with the people that know more than I do to make the best decision possible. Executives are rewarded for making all the decisions. So this is a hard one. You don't want them doing that. But this is just ingrained in them and reinforced. So keep that in mind when you talk about bringing them along on your Agile journey. All right. So yeah, it's tough. We get it. What does this have to do with Agile? We're getting there. So now let's talk about understanding the CEO. What's the anatomy? What does the CEO actually look like? And because I found out that I'm being rated on my presentation today, when you go and rate me, I want you to remember that I put a Dilbert cartoon in here. Okay. So very quickly, I'll read it. So Dogbert is explaining leadership. He says that leaders start their career as morons. They are drawn to meetings like moths to a porch light. The successful moron will have a very high bladder-to-brain ratio. They prevail in all decisions because they are impervious to logic or coffee, right? They'll just outlast you in the meeting. You'll have to go to the bathroom. They don't. These qualities are perceived as leadership, and you get promoted. After several promotions, their job tends to match their talents. I award you this award. That's one of my favorite lines. And in conclusion, leadership is nature's way of removing morons from the productive flow. All right, so I don't think any of that is true, but there you go. Okay, so this is how executives want you to perceive them. They got their shit together. They've got the answers. Don't worry, I've got it. All good. Everything's under control. Follow me to the promised land. That's the reality. CEOs and executives have stuff coming at them constantly, things they don't know how to handle. People coming at them all the time. And guess what? People are hard. People are hard. It's chaos. They are ducks on water. They don't want you to know that, but they are. Keep that in mind. So some of the characteristics that make up the CEO. Well, they've gotten to a specific point in their career, right? They've done the work. They've climbed the ladder. They don't want to lose that. They don't want to go down. They don't even want to have a lateral move. God forbid they do something like take a risk and be bold. They might get demoted. They might get fired. So they're risk averse. It's too scary to do big things that might not work out. They don't like change. Again, I've done it this way for 20 years. I've been successful. Why rock the boat? They like power and political capital. They like to know what's coming. And if any of you work with engineering teams or product teams, holy cow, talk about a divide. This causes problems for the executive. What do you mean you don't know what features you're rolling out 3 months from now? What do you mean you don't know what the product's going to look like next quarter? How am I supposed to sell that to customers? This makes no sense. No sense. That is a big challenge. They fear being transparent. You should be transparent with me. I will not be transparent with you. They need wins. This is not a bad thing. They need wins. Wins show that the company's actually moving and having some success, so they need that, although it might turn out to not be such a great thing. But keep in mind, wins are like the executive's best friend. They need this to show that they're having success. They have a love-hate relationship with metrics. Someone mentioned metrics before. Focused on short-term results. This is what I was talking about before with shareholder value. Hit our numbers this quarter. I don't care about this quarter next year. Hit our numbers this quarter or we're all screwed. We'll lose budget. We're going to have to cut headcount. We're not going to get this. We're not. Focus on this quarter only. They want to make all the decisions, especially the big ones, right? That's a win. We do something well. I said I'm the reason it happened. I get promoted. They expect employee alignment, and they dislike being managed, just like Sydney. When I said, go get this and come back and sit down. So, dear God, don't do what I did with Sydney. And guess what else? They actually have bosses and goals and KPIs, and they're being managed, and pressure's being put on them from on top and from the side. And some of you may not believe this, but they're actually just regular people, and they do not have all the answers. No joke, I mean, I say that in a flip way, but I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, you know, it was shocking to me to realize that they're just regular humans. I thought they had all the answers all the time, and they don't. They don't. They're just regular folks figuring it out just like you and me. And folks like you sometimes scare the hell out of them. Let me give you one example of how you scare them. So we all like this, right? Build, measure, learn. We're going to make some little mistakes. We're going to correct. We're going to come back. It's the fastest path. There'll be no big mistakes that are going to cost us a year of development time. We're going to deliver high value to the customer, and boom, we're going to hit that goal. It's going to be great. Yeah, that terrifies them because this is not what they see. This is what they see. You're telling me you're going to do some work for 2 weeks. You don't know what you're doing after that. And you might get it wrong, and you might have to throw that away and start over and do something else. So it sounds to me like you actually don't have a plan. It sounds to me like you don't know where you're supposed to go and how to get there. And in fact, the goal probably just moved way, way out. And I suspect that graph you showed me, if you follow that Agile process, you're probably never going to hit the goal. This is what I see as an executive, and this is what I want, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's hard to bridge this divide when this is what a lot of execs actually believe is possible. Just say what you're going to do, make a plan for it, and go and get it done next month. It's done. Yeah. All right, so I've painted a pretty awesome picture, right? Nothing bleak here, but there is some hope. So now let's get to some stuff that I hope will help you in your work. I'm going to start with you. What is it you actually want with Agile in your organization? What do you want? Do you want to spread Agile to the entire organization? I've heard that many times. That may be why you're here today, to learn how to do that. What is it you want? Well, I ask you to take a step back and get really clear on what it is you want. Because if you go to the executive with a half of a story of what you want to do with Agile, you have no shot. So get crystal clear. What is it we want to do with Agile in our organization? And then I want you to take a step back and ask, is this even a good idea? I know it's what I want. It's what my Agile team wants. Is this what's best for the organization? Be intellectually honest. Then, what is it you actually want from me as the executive with this whole Agile thing? What do you want from me? Do you want me doing Agile, whatever that means? Or do you want me supporting you? Get crystal clear. Third, what does success look like? Right? You're saying, this is what I want. This is what I want you to do in this journey. Can you show me what success looks like on the other end, what the metrics are going to be, all of those things? That's important that you can do that. And for those of you who think companies run on Agile, I'm telling you, it's not true. It's not true. I'm going to get super opinionated right now. I'm not like leaving this open for debate. You should stop saying this. It's only hurting your cause. Companies don't run as an entire organization in every respect on Agile. Okay? I love Agile, but that's the real deal. Okay, so what should you be doing? What should your goal be with these executives? Just a mind change. Just a mindset change. Okay? Get them excited about Agile, right? It's like that if you're in the elevator. You can't explain everything about Agile to them. They shouldn't walk out of the elevator saying, I'm now an Agile expert, I get it. No. Just get them interested. Change their mindset a little bit so they like the idea of Agile and want to move forward. Remember, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but they don't give a shit about the things like Scrum and all your ceremonies and sprints. They really don't. Even someone like me is like, okay, you're hurting my head. Is this going to work? Okay. So what can you do to encourage an Agile mindset? First, have the conversation. Sit down with them. What is it you actually want to achieve? What are the goals? No, we get the company goals. What are your goals? What are your needs? What are your fears? How can I help you? Second, I want you to create a vision. Right? They have to create a vision for the company, and if they don't, they get crushed by the employee base. You should create a vision. Bring it to them and say, this is the vision of Agile at our organization. This is what it's going to look like. Did I say this yet? Yeah, don't talk about Agile. What you should talk about are things like results, benefits, not just to the company as a whole, but to your executive, to the teammates, to the other executives. What are the benefits? How is this going to help us be better, be faster, save money, make more money, delight our customers? Those are things I can get and things I want to see happen. As you do that, you now need to start actually doing some stuff to show results to the executive. Okay? This is also in Brave New Work. If you read that, there's something called looping. And looping has 3 parts. First, sense tensions. What's holding us back? For example, turns out we have a 6-month budget process. Do we need 6 months to create our budget? That might actually be slowing us down, not helping us move forward. So that may be a problem. It's a tension. It's not working well at our organization. Second, what are some alternate practices you can think of? Is there a better way to do this that we can think of? And then third, run experiments. Run experiments. And when you start an experiment, when you start thinking about experiment, what's really critical is to start with the safest, smallest thing you can think of. Low risk, right? Why did I go through that long list of characteristics of the CEO and how the system is rigged against him and all that stuff? Because if you go to them right off the bat with something that's risky, you're done. Okay? You've got to show them something low risk so you can get a what? A win. They like the win, and then you can do another one and another one. You're going to time box it, and you're going to show results, and you're going to communicate it like crazy to everyone, people in the company, because they may want to jump on board, to your executive, to other executives. Those are the 3 parts. And then you're going to learn, and you're going to repeat it. Okay? Let me give you an example. This is a real-life example. Tension. Eric, I'm in meetings all the effing time. I never can get anything done because I'm just in meetings all the time. Is there something we can do? Well, a lot of those meetings you're in are status update meetings. You sit down with 10 other people and everybody goes around the room and says, here's where I am, here's where I am, here's where I am, here's where I am. And now we've wasted 11 people's time for an hour and we didn't get a lot of value. Can we do something about that? All right. Why don't we run an experiment for 30 days where we change that status update meeting to a shared doc. And we communicate expectations to everybody that was in that meeting. You're now going to put this in this doc by this time in this format. And everyone's going to read it by this deadline. And you're going to indicate that you've read it. And you're going to put your comments in there. And we're going to see how it goes for 30 days. Maybe you said do a survey at the end of the 30 days to see if it was useful. Maybe all you're doing is saying, did we miss having that meeting at all? Okay? So very low risk. It's one meeting. Low risk. See how it goes. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, what did we learn? And let's try a different experiment the next time. All right. So you're going to do that. You're going to do some looping. You're going to start talking to your CEO and executives in some different ways. You're going to run into some obstacles. It's not going to be as smooth as we all think it will be working with CEOs. Okay. So first, you may hear, okay, if you're convincing me to empower all these other people and they're making decisions, what's my job? That was my job for the last 20 years. You're taking that job away from me. Well, you could say your job actually now has 3 parts. First, create space. Create space. You create the vision. You create the why for what we're going to do. You set the goals. What's the direction you want us going? That's creating space. Second is hold space. You got to somehow figure out a way to create some psychological safety here so that there's trust built. We can actually fail. It's okay to fail because there's learnings we get from it. I'm not going to get fired if I fail. Your job is to ask a lot of really tough questions of us. Make sure we're performing at a high level. And then third, create a learning environment. Create a learning environment. Because we're going to make mistakes. How do we use those mistakes to get better? Those are the 3 parts of your new job. And guess what? You actually won't be running around like a chicken because you won't have to make every single decision. You won't be the one on the hook if something doesn't work out. Right? There's a lot of benefit to this that you should explain to your executive. You might hear this. Why the hell are you doing this to me? Why are you shoving this down my throat? I don't like this. You may hear it from the executive. You may hear it from colleagues, from people you try and bring into your experiments. Like, I don't have time for this. What are you doing to me? Okay? Be collaborative. Don't force it on them. Ask them, what tensions do you have in your work? How can I help you do something differently that's going to make your life better, make you more productive, etc.? And you got to communicate like hell. Communicate with your executive. Communicate with your peers out to the company. Way more communication. When you think, oh my God, I'm over-communicating, you're probably about half as much communication as you should do. Okay? Communicate more than you think you should. One suggestion, start by stopping. So sometimes when people start doing this looping and they start doing experiments, they want to add stuff. Hey, what if we try this new thing for 90 days? What if you go the other direction and say, why don't we just take something away for 30 days, right? So that example with meetings, one of the things we did at Transloc, we actually just killed a meeting, right? What if you just take it away? 30 days, that meeting you go to twice a week, it's dead. How's that going to feel for 30 days? What is that going to change in your life? Start by stopping. Start small and don't get carried away. It's a natural tendency. You run a couple of experiments. They work out well. The executive gets excited. Well, if we can do 2 experiments well, why don't we do 8 experiments? Slow your roll. Get the wins. Build upon it. Okay? Here's the other thing. CEOs have short memories, right? You saw Dogbert said their bladders, if they're really good, are way bigger than their brains, right? We can focus on, like, I would say 1.25 things at a time. That's it. And we revert to our old ways of doing things if we don't see results regularly. But if the results are not in front of our face, we don't know they exist because we can only focus on really one thing at a time. Okay? So let me tell you a story. So this is Scott Lacey. He's a lovely man, isn't he? He's the head of product at Transloc. I've known Scott for about 20 years, one of the original guys at Blackboard. I've worked with him for most of those 20 years. He's a great guy. I trust him implicitly. So many years ago, before we had done anything with Agile at Transloc, Scott came to me and he said, Doug, I want to bring Agile to Transloc. All right, I didn't know what that meant. And he explained it to me. And he was giving me all the benefits, and he was selling it pretty well. And I said, yeah, this sounds great. I'm on board with this. He waited. He was very sneaky. He waited for me to say I was on board. And then he said, oh, and by the way, it's going to take at least 3 years. I said, what do you mean 3 years? I said, why don't we be Agile in 3 months? And he said, doesn't work that way. Let me explain this to you. And it took a lot longer to explain that than everything else that he had said. But I trust Scott. I said, if you think this is the way to go, it's going to make us better, I trust you. Let's go ahead and do it. Well, I can't tell you how many times over the course of the 3 years, I dragged Scott into a room, and I made him sit down because he's 6'7". I made him sit down, and I said, tell me again why we're doing this Agile thing. It seems like we've gotten slower. Nobody knows what the hell's coming 3 months from now. I don't know that we're delivering any value to the customer. We're not selling more. Like, I just on and on and on and on, right? And he would remind me, yes, but I said 3 years, we're on track, and let me remind you that actually we did slow down and we're going much faster now. And we actually shipped this thing that all the customers are actually loving. And our sales actually are up a little bit because we're starting to deliver things. He had to remind me constantly because I would forget. Your CEOs are going to forget. So figure out a way as you're looping and conducting experiments and you're getting results over time, to put these results right in front of them so that they don't forget. Okay? And I'm going to leave you with this. Some of you may have read this Harvard Business Review article, Agile at Scale. Came out last year. Harvard Business School came out and said, Agile's great. If you really want to have a flexible organization, this is the way to go. They hyped it up and hyped it up. They didn't say it was the best thing in the world, but pretty close. So I think for all of you who want Agile to be more, to do more, to be everywhere, this is both the best thing and the worst thing that has ever happened. Okay, so let's start with the worst. Why is this so bad? Because once Harvard Business School comes out and says, this is what you all should be doing, every management consulting company in the world puts together programs to make millions of dollars to come in and do the Agile work that you all, the actual experts, do every day, should be doing. And you know who has the ear of the CEO? These giant consulting firms. They trust them. I don't know why, but they do. So it's terrible. So they're all ramping up. They all know Agile now. I can't tell you how many management consulting firms all think they're Agile experts now, even though no one in the company ever did Agile in any way. Okay. So that's terrible. But the good thing is that this is making Agile more visible to more people, including your executives, who may not understand why this is so great, but they understand that Harvard says this is the way to go. And if I'm going to get a win and I'm going to get promoted and I'm going to do all these things, maybe I should be Agile. Right? It creates an opening. There's a little window of opportunity now before they hire all the consulting firms to actually go to them and have their ear, provided you talk to them in the right way. If you go to them and talk about, we know how to do Agile, we know Scrum, we're going to do 2-week sprints, it's over. But if you go to them and talk about the value, and you talk about how you can bring better products that delight the customers, it's going to help us make more money and reduce our costs, and we're going to do it faster, and oh, by the way, our employees are going to be way more engaged and happier, and we won't have this high churn rate that we have. If you can bring that to them, then Harvard has done you a favor, and you will have more success than you have ever had. So I encourage you to seize this opportunity. I love the fact that you are here today learning about this stuff. Soak up everything you can, and then go back to your organizations and just crush it. Thank you. With 2 minutes to spare. Look at that. All right.